isn't just another benefit offering. So we've added that in so that employers can enroll in medical, dental, vision all at once. And we feel like we've streamlined the process to make it easier for brokers, for employers, for employees, and for insurance carriers to get those enrollments from the employee to the carrier more seamlessly. So thanks again for having us. We're super excited about fourth quarter this year. And we also see a big growth with ICHRA questions, ICHRA quotes, and trying to figure out how to, keep being the broker and, make it easy for the employers and employees. So,
yeah. And you've done that. I think some of the pain points, one of the pain points that we personally were really trying to solve for is first of all, how can you remain agent of record? How do you not give up all of the revenue by doing, ICHRA? And how do you solve the enrollment with the consumers as well as with the carriers on the back end? And, GoWell has really solved for those pain points.
Yep. And that's the key. Yeah, and that's the key, is really to be the broker's friend and the broker's resource for this direction, because there really hasn't been that. And really just a level set, I think it'd be a good spot to maybe, Deb, if you can, in simple terms, break down what an ICHRA plan is and kind of how it functions and compare it to a traditional health insurance. And then maybe if you're done, Holly can contribute as well.
Absolutely. Well, for us, the ICHRA is individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement. And what that does, and there's a lot of talking points on benefits and some of the pitfalls, but essentially what that means is an employer can take his or her entire workforce or certain classes of that workforce and offer a monthly reimbursement for that employee to go out and get individual unsubsidized coverage that meets their specific needs. Holly, you want to jump in on that?
I would concur. I would say, I think the big benefit for ICHRA is that personalization that Deb just, ended on, is that employees can pick whatever plan they want. And it becomes more of a financial discussion than trying to make sure that you're, really picking the right plans for employees, bringing those numbers down to 1, 2, or 3 plans. ICHRA allows you to choose any plan that's in the market. So if an employee is looking to, look for fertility, or they're looking for mental health, or they're looking for a specific provider, or they're looking for a specific prescription that isn't, is new to market, what insurance carrier is taking it right now, and then they can personalize their benefits, because insurance really covers the cost of most of the cost of care. So if employees pick the right plan for their specific solution, insurance really becomes their friend, because it helps, pay for the cost of insurance. So right. I feel like ICHRA really brings that to the front, because you can pick any plan you want, and there's no real restrictions on which plan to choose.
I would agree with that as well. I think that employees certainly, at least initially, they're a little frightened on what this actually means, them being in the driver's seat and selecting the plan. But with good counseling and, agents, again, as the agent of record, can counsel any of those employees the same way they would if they were talking about their group renewal options. They can narrow down what network and providers really and pricing makes the most sense for those employees. I think one of the other benefits, and Holly, maybe you can expand on this, is to the employers and having the ability to set a budget and knowing what one employee is going to cost if they bring on 10 employees, what that's going to cost, because it becomes almost a monthly unit cost. And much more predictable, not only for hiring, but also for renewal for the following year, coming up with a percentage of increase rather than crossing their fingers and hoping that the group renewal gods have done them well this year.
That's right. Yeah, I would agree. We say goodbye renewals, because there are no more renewals. Yeah. Rates change based on your age. So everyone's having an increase every year because they're getting older. But the renewals are much more predictable. Typically, the renewal increases are anywhere from 6 to 10%. You're not seeing 30% renewal increases anymore, 100% increases any longer, because it's set for the individual market, and to history, we haven't seen any renewal increases like that. So we don't expect to see any, in the upcoming future.
Right, right.
Good answers. Based upon that and some of the financial implications and cost and savings and options and that, how are contributions determined? How's that calculated, Deb or Holly?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, Holly, why don't you take that since GoWell solves for those contributions?
Well, that's what I think is great about having a platform. So I think if you're doing ICHRA, obviously you can do ICHRA with or without a platform. The reason to use a platform is that it really organized. I call it us record keepers a lot, because I feel like we are. It keeps you, what we know when you're doing a group of even 2 to 100, it's hard to keep track of especially if you're a broker with multiple groups, it's hard to keep track of what everyone enrolled in. So with us, you can go on and see, oh, okay, you have this plan or that plan, and it really helps with record keeping. But in terms of setting contributions, I would say that there's 3 ways to set contributions. One is just a flat dollar amount. So under 50, you can just have a flat dollar amount and say, okay, this is how much money we're contributing to everyone's plan. Pick it as you wish. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, especially in the over 50 group, is to pick a base plan and then fund to it. So we say, okay, well, this year the ACA is 8.39%. Our lowest paid salary is X. The employees can pay, let's just say $150, and setting all of the employee only rates to that specific plan to $150. So that's the other way that you can do it. We find people doing both. You can also pick a plan and do a percentage. So if you've always, let's say you're a small group and you've been funding to one specific plan for the last 10 years at 50%, and you don't want it to look very much different for that specific plan, but you like the idea of moving to an ICHRA, we can take your specific plan if it's also in the individual market, which a lot of the small group corresponds to the same individual plans. We can market at 50% so that employees see the same rates that they saw the year before. So it's not as so much of a shock, but still opening that market up so that employees can pick any plan they want. So even if you're picking a base plan, employees still have the ability to choose any plan, but that's a good starting point, especially when you're working with large groups or groups that have, had the same plan for years, but maybe the owner wants to move away from, that format.
Yeah. Well, and that's another reason that we really settled on GoWell, is because you do all of that. The law requires that you can't have more than a 3-to-1 ratio between the lowest contribution and the highest. And with all of the differing ages and the, the affordability factors for the lowest cost silver plan, it becomes very daunting, maybe not for a small group, but for a large group that becomes very daunting. And I think the fact that you can, just with the landing page, upload a group census and all of the preliminary information, have you guys do the modeling. I think that's amazing. That's been really a time saver for us. I also like the fact, and agent partners, listen up to this, once GoWell does the modeling for you, they create probably an 8 to 10 page PowerPoint, very, very simplified, specific to the group, a lot of the same talking points, but something that really helps you explain in layman's term, not only to the employees, but to the employers, what this ICHRA is and, how it can work for them. So all of that is included in the platform. And I think, just bouncing off of this platform, I think your record keeper hat that you wear, Holly, and all of us agents wear, I think that this GoWell platform is good for that as well, because it's almost like the employee navigator or an employer ben admin system, where it allows the employees to make those elections, retain those records, keep that group together as a group, even though they're on individual coverage options. And it also allows employers to add new employees, terminate employees. So it really does function as a Ben admin system with the enrollment capabilities as well. I do see some
Perfectly said.
some questions, but why don't we, do you think, Jason, do you think that it's a good time to maybe go through that PowerPoint and talk about what maybe the employee experience is once the employer decides that they're going to go with an ICHRA platform?
Yeah, so I think that sounds like a good idea. We should probably go through what our sample deck look. Do you want us to go through the sample deck today, Deb, or should we hit the questions?
I think, well, we can go through the sample deck. It's only 12 slides, and then we can go through the questions. I think this will maybe answer a lot and also give our agent partners a real feel on what it looks like to the employees, because that's a huge thing too. What's that employee's experience going to be? And just for our own edification, agents, you can do the benefit counseling to those employees, or GoWell can do that. So that also gives you the latitude to make the decision on how you want to transition your clients, your group clients, to ICHRA. So there we go. My preface. Do you want to go through the slides, Holly?
Yes. Yeah. So how to enroll in GoWell. So that's slide 1. So step 1, it's very simple. Employees, we like to say it's ridiculously fast and easy. We got started by meeting employees where they're at. So employees can enroll on their phone. They can enroll on their computer, any smart tab. They're going to come in first. They're going to click on the link. They're going to create an account. And then the next one, step 2, is they're going to use their employer code that we gave them. So it's typically the first 4 letters of the employer's name and the number 1. And then they're going to put in their first name, last name, create account, put in their username and password. And then step 3, they're going to put in their address, confirm that their mailing address is the same. Step 4, we're going to continue on and put in their demographics, their home address. Step 5. And then they're going to just confirm their full-time or part-time status, and then they're going to shop on or off exchange. And then step 6, we're going to go through and they're going to click on shop plans. And if they're going to add any dependents, they're going to do it at step 7. They'll put in their dependents information. Step 8 will bring them to the marketplace. So all of the plans within their zip code will show up here. They can pick any plan they want. They're able to filter by carrier. They're able to filter by deductible or rate. So a lot of times rates are select their plans, and then they're able to go on to make sure everything looks good, and they're going to sign and submit. And the one thing that I didn't also talk about in 2024, underneath the new guidelines, all employees have to sign off on a broker consent. That's also built into GoWell. So when the employee signs off on selecting their plan, they would also see that broker consent, naming you as the agent, and that they allow you to work on their behalf. So that is all of that disclosure is also included in the last step. So really solving for both record keeping and compliance as you're working on ICHRA and our site. And it just takes a few minutes to complete.
All right. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. That's the name of the game.
That is the name of the game. How about eligibility? Are there any specific requirements or compliance type things to consider for employers that are offering ICHRAs, or to the employees that are going to be potentially utilizing them? This is to either of you.
Go ahead, Holly.
Okay. Yeah. So just like, obviously here plans can only begin on the 1st. So everything's first of the month following. So first of the month following hire, first month following 30, first days first month following 60 days, that would be determined by the employer, or if they're variable hour employees, first of the month after they've worked, 365 days and established that they work full time. So just like with normal group insurance, it's the same type of eligibility. I see that there's a question that's saying, can you offer group plan as well as an ICHRA? Example, group health for full time, ICHRA for part-time. That's absolutely appropriate. As long as you class out the ICHRA, you can't offer a group plan and an ICHRA to the same exact population, but you can do carve-outs in classes. There's 11 different classes that are allowable under an ICHRA, and for full-time and part-time classes are absolutely allowable. So the benefit to an employee to get an ICHRA through their employer is if they don't qualify for a subsidy, they can still get a pre-tax, as long as the plan's unaffordable, they can still get a pre-tax benefit through their employer. So they can have that Section 125 so that they can go ahead and pay for their on a pre-tax basis. So Amber, absolutely.
And just, pardon me, I did forget to mention that we are recording, so everyone that has registered will get a copy of the recording. In the handouts, we have a copy of the enrollment, little enrollment video, kind of what you just saw on the screen through PowerPoint. And then we have two handouts, one for talking points for employers and one for employees. Very, very easy stuff. There are questions too. Emily has a question that, let's see. Oh,
in regard to the tax implications.
Yes.
Does GoWell account for the tax implications of an employer's contribution to the employee?
So we can set up the Section 125 documents for you so that employees can pay on a pre-tax basis. I think that is probably the one that answers your question.
Yeah.
And the affordability, what about the affordability factor? Is that in play for the ICHRA? And yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that's what and I think, Holly, you touched on that. We can work that out through the quoting. If you're submitting it over, we can calculate and get you those numbers according to the lowest base salary or depending on the size of the group.
Absolutely.
Well, and with URL's contract with GoWell, we can sell a subscription to agent partners that do their individual business with us or don't. So we have a fee schedule that we would love to talk to any and all of you that have any interest about what that really means for yourself and your agency. Because I can tell you that, to Holly and Jason's point, we have been getting a lot of inquiries, more so than we have any other year. So I don't know what this messaging landing all of a sudden that somehow all employers and or brokers know about it, but it's hitting and it's hitting big. And what we've seen more so than classing out certain employees is a full ICHRA takeover. Employers, at least from our own personal experience, are not looking to class out different employees within their employer plans and retain their group health plans. They're just saying, we're done with this. We are doing a full ICHRA transition. So is that the same for you, Holly and Jason? Is that what you've been experiencing as well?
I would say we see a lot of takeovers. We do see some brokers and employers, I would say more in the larger segment, becoming more creative in terms of what do those classes look like? How can we give people benefits that might have not had them before? So it brings a new opportunity for their employees. We see that a lot with employer groups that have variable employees, different classes for the employees and the benefits that are offered. Some of the multi-states are seeing that because the plan that they had they were multi-state, and I would say more complicated groups are the ones that are classing, because they'll have like a state maybe that doesn't work on their group plan, but there was nothing really to solve for it before. But now they can carve those employees out based on, state eligibility. And now those employees that never had a plan that worked that great for them can have a plan that they can choose on their own. And there's no restrictions in classing like that. So I would say, like you're saying, more takeovers than anything, especially in small group market. In
Right.
large group markets, we're seeing a combo, but I would say we're seeing a lot of takeovers.
Yeah.
But I don't think insurance is ever one size fits all. So I think that ICHRA fits. I think we're still going to see self-funded. We're going to still see fully insured groups. Just like today, we're going to see a lot of different options for all groups. And I think this is just one more option that is important to quote and look at, but might not be the option for all groups.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I think, there's always something new that employers and agents have to be aware of. And although this isn't totally new, it is new to conversations. And
Absolutely.
if they're not asking you as a broker partner, or you're not talking to them, they're going to be hearing about it somewhere.
Right.
So I think it's really important. So, to keep yourself informed and look for those opportunities. To Holly and Jason's point, every group is not ripe for an ICHRA, that's for sure. Older demographics tend to be very expensive in the individual market. And, sometimes when you look at the difference in contributions versus employer group contributions, it's a level playing field. So it's maybe not make sense for every group, but every group is worth exploring, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I agree. I think some of the success stories that we've seen happen is microgroups. Microgroups are never had insurance before. Now they can. Groups that didn't meet participation, so they couldn't get to that 50%. And so like, well, we don't know what to do with this group. We can't meet participation anywhere. ICHRA works great for those. I also think those runaway self-funded plans where you see, high, equivalized rates, you're seeing over $500-$600 for equivalized rates and your mean age is 40, ICHRA is going to win all day. So I see those three as being, more slam dunks. And then I see nuances in a lot of the market.
Well, and a lot of our self-funded groups, even the smaller groups, but more specifically the larger groups, to your point, they kind of rate themselves out that there's nowhere else for them to go. They've already went fully self-funded. They already have high deductible options for their base program. So there's very little other options that these groups can go to for some sort of rate relief. So I agree with you that these larger groups are looking, and the micro groups are always looking, to your point.
Yeah, that's right.
One other question that does come up a lot. I think we've kind of addressed this in each of the last answers, but maybe bring it home. Flexibility to an ICHRA plan in terms of customizing benefit offerings to the employees and the employers. Trouble with it is there's so many options, but can either of you speak to the flexibility in customizing benefit needs via ICHRA?
Yeah, flexibility. I would say ICHRA, that's one of the ICHRA is probably one of the most flexible options when it comes to insurance because it has very few rules in terms of funding, contributions, participation. So in terms of flexibility, I would call it very flexible. And when you're thinking about insurance options, it really runs the gamut as to whatever the employer or the broker, whatever the strategy is, you can pretty much add to your ICHRA. It gives you a lot of leeway.
Well, when you compare it to a group health plan, maybe an employer can offer 3-4 group health plans to select. Most of them are always with the same carrier, but employees now are not tied into that, not into these 3-4 options. They can go to the carrier that makes the most sense for them or they're the most comfortable with. And if they want a qualified plan or a catastrophic plan versus a silver or gold, they can do that. Again, whatever meets their specific needs. So flexibility, that's with a capital F for sure.
Yeah,
I like it.
Across the board.
Yeah.
And then for how does this all occur? So as being one of our key partners for this, the ICHRA for pre-tax basis should be rolled off exchange, but how is that handled? How would you go about that, Deb?
So that was one of our pain points that we had to solve for, because without GoWell, what we do is we talk to each employee, we go over paper rates, because there's really no, at least I'm not aware of any off marketplace quoting tool. So, you know, it's very labor intensive. Once you counsel that employee, then you either take a paper application and send it to the carrier for off market, or you go to the carrier's off market, but that's individualized. What GoWell has done, which you're aware of, Jason, is partnered with these carriers, Highmark, Capital, Geisinger, etc., nationally, the national carriers as well, to facilitate off-market enrollment through a spreadsheet, the same way an employer would do through an employer ben admin system such as Employee Navigator. That enrollment's done by spreadsheet. So, you know, I think to your point, and you know, GoWell's benefits, they've really worked with these carriers and you know, partnered with them to make that pain go away because it's seamless. The broker no longer has to do that.
Right. Great. And then and back to Holly, the actual processing of enrollment and terminations, the day-to-day, how do we at GoWell kind of handle that, or how does the employer or broker handle that through GoWell?
Okay, so one of the very exciting tractions we have for this fourth quarter is our Capital API. So when an employee is going in they're enrolled in Capital, it's direct to Capital. So we are enrolling them right then and there. The feed is taken to them, so they're enrolling in our system. They're enrolling in their system. So they're the payment. We've also linked in the payment information. So I saw that there's a reimbursement question out there. There's so I'll first answer your first question, then get into the reimbursement. So I don't want to get sidetracked, but the payment and the enrollment is sent directly to Capital. When we term them through API, when we term them, the termination is also sent to Capital. But what's termed, because remember, ICHRA is interesting because employees can keep their own plans. It's one of the beauties of ICHRA that an employee's insurance is their insurance. They're not, when they get COBRA, they're really, I mean, they can pay their employer through the ICHRA and continue on the payment path, you know, by law, but they also can just change their bank account and keep their plan and not work with their employer anymore. They can just have their plan like they always have and move on without being tied to that employer any longer. So from an employee perspective, it's kind of nice because they can keep their plan on the termination. So with Capital, it's an API, and that's seamless. With some of the other carriers, we can send a spreadsheet to them. Other ones, we would terminate the payment, and then they would still get their COBRA like they always do. And then it would be up to the employee to change their payment information with that insurance carrier and to keep the plan. Otherwise, obviously the payment would end and the plan would be canceled due to non-payment.
And just like an employer ben admin system, the employer and or the broker would have the ability to go in and add new employees or terminate employees. Yeah. So, you know, again, very seamless. Bill Wheeler has a question about how payments are made. And I think the way GoWell sets that up with a master employer account to filter to the employees. Do you want to explain a little bit about that, Holly?
I can. So we have partnered with a bank. We have an API with the bank as well. So if you decide to use our banking solution, which is open to use, we would set up a third-party payer for that employer on that same file feed, like I was explaining with Capital. We would have set up the third-party payer. Each employee would have specific accounts to that premium dollar, so that the accounts can only be used for health insurance for that specific premium that we've established to begin with. And we would feed that directly to capital with the enrollment. So they all get the enrollment and payment all at once. So very seamless. So that's our number one option. And one of our top recommendations is to use that third party payer, because we've integrated that into our system. So it becomes seamless for the broker and for the, employer, and for the employees, everything's right there. You can make payments all different ways. So you don't have to use the banking system. If you want to do, there's, I guess, two more other ways to do, ICHRA's. One, you could set up with an HRA account and get HRA cards for each employee. That's viable. You could also do payroll reimbursements. That's another viable way to do the reimbursement. So you don't have to do it, our preferred method. We tried all three, and we think that making it seamless seems to be the easiest. But if there's a different affiliation, or the employer would like to do it a different way, or you as a broker, like to do it a different way, we don't mandate that you use the third party banking system, but we've set it up so that we're able to streamline the ICHRA process easier.
Yeah, and again, that addresses one of those pain points of an employee paying the premium and then waiting for reimbursement.
Yeah.
Times are tight for a lot of people, and that was always clunky.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is very seamless, and it reimburses almost immediately. Of course, any premium that is due above the employer's reimbursement can be done pre-tax, since it is being done off of the marketplace. So the employer can continue to do the pre-tax deductions, and that, of course, goes into that master account as well to filter down to the employee's ACH. So very slick. I like it a lot. Yeah. Miriam is asking a question about how do we access the platform through URL, or set up our own personal dashboard and the costs. Miriam, I'll give you a call. We have a lot of different options, as does GoWell. You're not locked into going through URL. We are offering a heavily discounted subscription, so probably would be to your benefit to do so. But I can talk to you about all the options, and I'll give you a call after our presentation. How about any other questions? Looks like Olivia behind the scenes is doing a great job answering the questions.
And I'm trying to answer what I can too.
Oh, is that right? Well,
Right.
I know there's one question.
Thank you.
One question that always comes up, which is probably top priority to everybody on this call, is can the agent remain an agent of record if they're utilizing GoWell or utilizing our services? I know the answer, but I'll let you guys answer.
And that is an absolute yes.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons that we partnered with GoWell, because that allows you, the agent, to remain in the driver's seat and to be that conduit with your client. They are your group clients going to individual. So just because they're transitioning to a different sort of payment method or platform doesn't mean that you can't still remain that agent of record. That was very important to us when looking for systems, and I can tell you that this is really the only one that we found that allows for that.
Yeah.
You remain the agent of record.
One of the reasons I joined the team as well, very broker centric, and want to protect my broker's business. So without any other questions, I think there's two other areas I want to cover, but if questions come up, we can take those two, but I'll take the one that's maybe less positive and want to finish on a positive note. So just really any pitfalls around benefits implementation of this, or how can employers effectively communicate kind of the benefits and details of ICHRA to their employees? Any kind of standard direction you want to feed?
Holly, why don't you take that?
So I would see doing open enrollment like normal. So when you set up open enrollment, you're going to let the employees know that open enrollment's here, and that the employer has decided to go in a direction called ICHRA. I would reiterate what ICHRA is to all the employees, because a lot of times people don't really know what ICHRA is because it is a new concept. So just again, reiterating, this is individual coverage through an HRA so that the employer is going to still be the ones that are going to fund the insurance, through either an HRA account or an HRA card, but that opens up employees' ability to pick any plan they want. So ICHRA means individual coverage, picking any plan in the marketplace. Where GoWell comes in is it gives you the entire marketplace for that specific zip code that the employee lives in so that they can pick a plan that's most appropriate to wherever they live. And I would just do open enrollment like normal. So X number of dollars are going to be contributed from the employer, or $1 is going to be whatever the funding arrangement's going to look like, percentage, dollar amount, that how much it's going to cost is going to be communicated to the employee. And then what does it mean when you have individual coverage? I think that's a key point, because it's nice to recognize the similarities, which GoWell makes it so that it feels very similar to normal, business as usual enrolling in benefits, because you can enroll in your medical, dental, vision. But where it is different, it's important to point out that employees have individual plans. That means that they're the policy holder. That means that communications are going to go directly to the employee. So they're going to see their plan notices. They're going to get invoices. They may be set up on auto pay, but they're going to see more of the transactional behind the scenes. I would say ICHRA is very transparent because everyone knows where it is. Broker, employer, employee, everyone knows, the status of that specific account. So I would remind the employees that they are the holders. And then with that means, again, like we talked about before, is that when they leave, they can keep their plan. So they're going to change the payment mechanism and bring it to their own, and they can keep their plans. So where I see that, obviously being a good selling attribute for an employer and a broker to make sure and to communicate to those employees clearly during open enrollment. So I see a lot of the same from a broker's role in terms of when they're rolling out the open enrollment, like what's the plan, how much does it cost, what are the benefits, how does it work for the employee, how does it work in general? So I think if they cover those 5 things, they should have a successful open enrollment.
I agree. And part of that PowerPoint really does, to one of my original points, does take you through the process in layman's terms, and it's very easy to understand. I would also encourage you to get these handouts, the talking points for employers and employees. Very, very easy to understand. And I think that just helps start the conversations.
Yep. Awesome. And then how about, again, barring any other questions, a success story or a couple, maybe one each, or a case study where ICHRA had a positive impact on the employer, employees, broker, and kind of what were the circumstances around that?
Sure. Well, I'm sure Holly has a lot of success stories and we're really just getting started, but I can tell you we have 3 groups that we're implementing for 1-1. 2 are large groups. They're both saving money substantially. They're both businesses that would benefit from individual platforms, individual choices. And, again, I think the greatest thing is the money savings. And one of our ICHRA team members here at URL did some modeling by hand, a manual modeling for ICHRA. And this particular group is paying about $55,000 a month for a group of a little over 70. And with the reimbursement models, she actually took all 150 of the employees, and they can still save, if every employee selected, because they only have 50% participation now, if every employee selected, they would still save about $2,000 a month, yet cover every single employee. So that, to me, is our biggest success story so far.
That's great. I would say that the success stories are, one success story would be I like helping those micro groups too.
Yeah.
Because there's, for so many years, like I don't know. There's really nothing you could do. There's not very many plans that go down below 5. There's not really a lot of options under 5. But now ICHRA opens it up, so they're like, well, you're not tied now. You can, if you only have 2 people, you can both can pick your own. And if that plan that we showed you before didn't work because it didn't work in somebody's geography, ICHRA really opens that up. So I love microgroups. I like the large groups too, because I feel like, to Deb's point, those runaway fundings, it seems so crystal clear that if your equivalized rate is, $600 or higher, you're going to win with the ICHRA, just because the median age of employees is typically 30 or 40. Even if you're on the high end, you're still probably going to save on your ICHRA. So I like quoting those groups, and I like showing those savings. So the large groups, I think, are interesting. And I think those state geographies is a rewarding way too, because for so long, those people that lived in maybe the one-off state that doesn't work, that works in your home state.
Right.
Maybe you have UPMC in your group, and then you have employees in Delaware.
Right.
No one knows what you're talking about when they give the card. So people are, I don't know what that is. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because it's a great insurance in Pittsburgh. It's the best, one of the best insurances in Pittsburgh. Especially if you're going to go to UPMC. So facilities. So, but when you get to Delaware, it's confusing. So I like that employees in those spaces are able to, choose a plan that might make more sense in their geographic area, so that when they do go to the doctors and they do use their insurance, that they don't, have that friction of, I don't know what card this is. I don't understand. I've never seen it. Not that it's even an issue. It really isn't an issue. It's just a perceived issue because, obviously they're on a PPO plan if they're living in Delaware, and it really is no issue. But for employees, it just makes them feel uncomfortable, and they're just not sure. And they're, it makes just another layer. So I like those state carve outs too, for that reason. It feels like we alleviated pain that existed. Maybe it wasn't a huge pain, but they felt it. And so I like that we addressed it to help them make it easier for them to use their plans.
Right. Well, and speaking of out of state, even though we're domiciled in Pennsylvania, GoWell is not limited by our Commonwealth borders. They can write in you can write in every state, correct?
Yeah, we're nationwide.
Yeah, there you go. So there are a lot more groups now, especially after COVID, that have out-of-state employees. I mean, Jason here is sitting in Florida. We won't hate him too much for Florida, but there are a lot of employees that have employees outside of their home state. So ICHRA can accommodate that, and GoWell can accommodate that for sure.
And we are a Pennsylvania-based company.
Yeah. Yes.
Our headquarters is in Narberth.
Yep. Well, it looks like we're coming to an end. Jason, I didn't see any more questions. Did you?
I haven't seen anything else pop up, so I think we're clear there.
Yeah, I think so too. Did you, before I wrap up and thank everyone, Jason or Holly, did you have any last words that you wanted to leave our guests with?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys again for the opportunity. Thanks for the time today. We really appreciate the time and consideration. Deb, was great chatting with you about ICHRA. I'm super psyched about fourth quarter. And we're looking forward to, working together and your broker partners.
Yeah, thank you very much. How about you, Jason?
Same, stole my thunder. Thank you for the time, and we appreciate it. Looking forward to the busyness that will be the end of the year here, and we're here to support you in any way possible, anybody and everybody on the call. So thank you for the time.
Perfect. And to everyone on the call, I say the same thing that Holly and Jason do. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to learn more about ICHRAs. You can reach me here at URL at my usual number, but in case you don't know, it's 800-926-8875. I'm at extension 113. Or you can email me, debw@urlinsgroup.com. And again, our ICHRA email is ICHRA@urlinsgroup.com. You'll be getting the link shortly and the handouts. So keep the questions coming. Just because the webinar is over doesn't mean that we are done talking about this. I encourage all of you that have any interest or even want to learn about the pricing of a subscription and how that could work for you, please give me a call, or certainly Holly and Jason, you can reach out to them as well. But for now, we're signing off, and we thank you again for your time and joining in. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You.